Dear friends, now we are going for the next session, and it's with one of our scientific board lady. She's experienced in US and in Iran now. She's Victoria Karimian, CM, CPM, and ARDMS. She's a registered sonographer in OB/GYN specialty and George Washington University Graduate Sonography Program post-bachelorate degree. She's non-member CPM, and she has a clinical experience as a private practice midwife in Tehran and as a sonographer in Kaiser. I don't know exactly the name if I'm talking the proper in Maryland, US, and OB high risk clinic sonographer in Virginia. She worked as a perinatology clinic PDC in Georgetown University Medical Center. And now Victoria is in Iran. She is running her own practice as an independent midwife and board scientific of Lily Mom. Thank you so much. Let's hear from Victoria. Welcome, Victoria. Please unmute yourself.
Yes, are you hearing me?
Yes.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm so glad to be here. I just can't get enough of listening to all the great midwives sharing their experiences all around the world. I was just about to, I was like, what am I gonna say? Let me just keep listening to what they say. I don't even want to talk. I actually prepared a little clip that I was gonna share with you, some of the pictures of the babies that were born, and let's introduce myself again. My name is Victoria Karimian. I've been internationally trained both in Iran and in US as a midwife, and I also went to a sonography program in US in George Washington University, and I received my Miss Ahangar is saying I love you. And I received my, I passed my ARDMS board exam, and I became a registered diagnostic medical sonographer in the specialty of OBGYN from ARDMS after I finished the program with George Washington University. And I worked as a midwife and a sonographer in the perinatology clinics in Georgetown, in Fredericksburg, Virginia, and also with Kaiser Permanente. I worked as a sonographer in their OB department as well. So I have plenty of experience both in midwifery in Iran and in US, and also being a high-risk pregnancy sonographer in Washington, DC area mostly. I've also worked with both with CPMs and also a nurse midwife, which was graduated from Brooklyn in NYU, and we were doing home birth together. She was actually going to people's house and doing home birth, and we were working joint together, trying to learn more and serve people in. Mostly it was people that were living in the areas that were rural areas and underserved areas, and we really enjoyed helping them. And I have to say, insurance was actually paying for the services that we were providing for the moms. And that was a great experience that I had in US. But like this lady from Australia was saying that the labor and the delivery is not a service that the insurances provide for the people, for the moms. That's just too sad that the insurance companies don't cover midwifery services for the moms in Australia. But we've had the experience and we've had the advantage of the services for the moms to be covered by the insurance in Maryland. So that was a great thing that I should say. I should compare US midwifery services to Australia. And I'm hoping this would be something that all the moms could have the advantage of insurance companies provide and cover for midwifery services at home, because I always say this should be always the mom's choice and not the government's choice, and insurance companies should be complying with and respecting the moms and the patients' rights in all the countries, not just in US. And in Iran, unfortunately, we don't have such a thing that insurance company will always, government-based, I should say, insurance companies don't always pay for the home birth. And even the private sector insurance companies don't cover for the moms if they want to do, if they want to use a individual midwife who can go either to their home or in the hospital, be able to do their labor and delivery. I'm hoping one day we will resolve this problem in the world, that people can actually get their labor and delivery be covered, services be covered through insurance companies. And so if you want to ask me any questions, go ahead. And so I can, actually Leila was saying that I should give probably would be a great thing if I could compare the midwifery services in Iran and in US. If you have any questions about this, maybe you can ask now, so I can go to the clip that I want to share with you, if you like. If not, we can just go ahead and go for the clip that I've prepared, if it's okay now. Okay, I got it. Can you hear me also?
Yes, we can. Yes.
This clip was actually showing some of my experience here as a private practice midwife, that I worked in I work and I contract with a few hospitals that are accepting privileged midwives, and they're contracting with them. And then you can take your patients that are having birth, and you're seeing them through their prenatal care visits to the hospitals to do their labor and delivery in the private hospitals. And this is something that in US, it was so difficult for many of the midwives to do. They were mostly going to private practice and going to people's homes as certified professional midwives, or they were mostly nurse midwives that they were going through American College of Nurse Midwifery track and becoming hospital midwives, basically. These were the two tracks that I was mostly seeing in US. And one piece that was missing was the format that we were working as a midwife in Iran, which it was really missed, because I was so used to being a midwife and then opening your own private practice, and then go and contract with the private hospitals, and then be able to do your own patient's delivery in the hospital without any supervision from the OBGYNs. And even in US, a lot of the states, as you may know, Augustine, that there are so many states that are not regulated for midwives, private practice midwives, to work in the hospital with the backup of physicians. They're usually being supervised by many of them are being supervised by and ruled by the doctors, which midwives, of course, didn't like that idea. And most of them wanting to have a backup from backup physician, OBGYN, and they don't like to have a supervising physician or supervising OBGYN to work with them. Actually, midwives, when I first went to the US in 1994, and I was trying to find a track that is very similar to the midwifery practice in Iran, I was pretty disappointed, find out that in most states, you don't have such a system that helps you.
Sorry, I
Actually,
distracted you with my question. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
I thought you would read it later when you got to it, but you jumped right to it. While you're talking about legality, yeah, we can touch on that really quickly because it's very complicated, and most people who have not tried to work in the U.S. really don't understand how complicated it is. You know, because you went through it. But there are 50 states. And there are 5 different types of midwives. I don't even know if you could come up with the amount of laws that you have to be aware of. And then if you add birth centers is an entirely different thing. So birth centers, 5 midwives, 50 states. There's basically an you can't even keep track of it. It's impossible. And so
someone was telling me, let me interrupt you here, that someone was telling me when you're entering a new state, it's like you're entering a new country. So don't think that any of these states have anything to do with each other. And they were right. They have so many different varieties of laws and regulations that you didn't know how to fit in. You didn't know. And unless you go and live in that state, you can't really research it. You can't really know ahead of time what you're going to be walking into. And that was so scary.
Exactly.
And right now I'm trying to explain it to the midwives in Iran because they keep asking me, well, what was happening in the US? How was it? Which state is good? Which one is not good? I'm like, I didn't live in all the 50 states, so I don't know. Unless you go and actually live in them, you don't really know the ups and downs of the laws and regulations there. And I really don't have a clear answer for that.
Yeah, it's kind of
I'm
crazy.
sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead, you were saying something.
The certified nurse midwife tract is legal in all 50 states. But what you were referring to a little bit ago is that there are only 26 of the states where CNMs have legal autonomous practice, where they don't need physician supervision.
Yeah, they told me half of the states only.
Yeah. And then in the other main designation, the CPM, it's only legal in 33 states right now. So you could actually be a fully trained midwife that's nationally certified and have the risk of a felony where you practice. Like that you would go to jail for doing the job that you're trained to do.
And I remember so many of the midwives, they were taking the chance of even getting arrested. And they were like, okay, I called a couple of them and I said, how are you guys practicing? Aren't you afraid that someone is going to come and arrest you and say, why are you being an illegal midwife? They were like, no, we don't have malpractice insurance. And we tell the patients that we are midwives and we don't have an insurance. And if you want to take a chance to hire us, go ahead and hire us. But if something goes wrong, there's nothing legally you can do. So either the patient decides to agree with that and choose us, or they say, no, okay, goodbye. We have to go to another one.
Yeah,
basically. They were having so many patients.
Yeah. We
even with this difficulty and with these limitations, they had so many patients that they wanted them and they wanted to be their patients and they were not afraid. They were like, we know, we trust you.
Yeah, patient demand is real. Like women want what they want, right? And so there will always be someone filling that void. The problem is that the quality of the care that fills that void is oftentimes a little questionable in some places. I used to work in an illegal state too, and it's that same thing. The only real threat is from the state itself, because if the state pursues a wrongful death or, some kind of
if something goes wrong, then you're in big trouble.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
And you have no support. Then you have.
Yeah, it's a very stressful environment to work in. Very stressful. Well, Victoria, I had a question for you that I typed to you. You are really fascinating because you have this dual degree. You have this whole other profession that you have skill in besides midwifery. And I just was curious if you would share with us, from your perspective as an ultrasonographer, what have you learned in that profession that you wish all independent midwives knew?
One of the problems that in Iran I had, the reason, let me tell you what made me decide to start a sonography program in George Washington University. Besides that, my family was moving to the DC area. My husband was going to get a job with NIH and with FDA. I'm like, well, why don't I start going to one of these accredited programs that are well known in US? Why don't I just start a sonography program? And I was like, okay, that's a good match with midwifery. Even if I want to continue with my midwifery practice in Iran, that would be a feather on my hat. I used to call that. Then I can understand, even though in Iran, midwives don't have the right to have a sonography machine, even in their own private practice, but at least I would have a good knowledge of when the reports are coming, looking at the images that they send. I will know a lot more than what they teach in midwifery school. That was the main reason that I went to this program, and I wanted to learn much more in depth about sonography, especially OBGYN sonography. And it was amazing. And I thought it's the easiest job in the world to learn to become an OB sonographer, and I was mistaken. Because as soon as I entered the school and I learned OB ultrasound, I was like, oh my God, this is the toughest job in the world. How am I gonna chase the baby so much for an hour? Especially if there were twin babies, I had to chase two babies for 45 minutes to find where the fingers are, where the toes are, where the mouth is, where the nose is, to be able to do a really good job screening fetal anatomy. So yeah, that was my motivation and the reason that I started going to sonography program in GW. And I really enjoyed it because then I could really link between midwifery, especially high risk mom that they would come. I always had the compassion of a midwife and then the techniques of sonography, and they really enjoyed and they were so amazed. They would say, wow, you're a midwife too. What are you doing here? I'm like, I want to learn ultrasound too. Because most people are not used to having a midwife becoming a sonographer at the same time. And I was working in perinatology clinics, mostly in Georgetown and in Fredericksburg, in the hospital. There was a high-risk perinatology clinic, PDC clinic, I think it was called. So they were so happy whenever they would see me. And sometimes I would use my midwifery skills along with my sonography skills at the same time. And moms really loved it. And I thought to myself, why don't we have more midwives in US that they go and learn at least for a while, work as an ultrasonographer, and the patients have the advantage of having both a midwife and a sonographer at the same time in the room. A lot of midwives were telling me that this is a great choice. This is a great combination that you have chosen. And I think I made the good decision by going to the school. And then now that I'm in Iran, I went to the university. Shahid Beheshti University is a public university here that they asked me to come and teach the midwives OB sonography, because most radiologists here don't really do a good job trying to teach the midwives about ultrasound in midwifery, because they think they're going to be going and getting a machine and starting doing ultrasound on their own, then they're not going to. It's also politically, I think it's kind of, I have to say, they have dominated the market, the radiologists so bad that even the OB doctors here don't have the right to touch the ultrasound machine. And this is a problem in the US. I think in most countries, midwives are getting trained. They have ultrasound courses that they have to learn. They have to learn basic OB sonography. OB-GYNs have a right to learn about OB sonography and GYN, but unfortunately in Iran, it's pretty much dominated by radiologists here. That it's even legally, they're considered illegal for the midwives and for the OB doctors to have an ultrasound machine in their practice, and even then, And even if they do use it as a diagnostic tool, they can't really charge for it. They're like, if you want to get, if you wanted to get paid, then you have to go to a radiologist and pay for your services, ultrasound services, OB/GYN services, and all the ultrasound services with a radiologist doctor. That's the problem in Iran.
Well, so and then in the US, we have this random phenomenon where they have these boutique ultrasound places. Did you see that when you were there?
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like a coffee shop.
And they were like,
yeah.
Oh, exactly. I think that it's more commercialized.
And then they scan your baby, and then they charge you,
$100. Picture. It's like you entered the gallery for making a photo album of your baby. Yes, it's a lot more commercialized. In Iran, we don't have such a thing. Thank God, we don't have that disaster yet. That they
and then the moms
ultrasound.
Think, oh, now I'm safe. I had an ultrasound, and I'm like, no, that's not even. That's a picture.
That's not an ultrasound.
Yeah.
Yeah, here in Iran, people go during their pregnancy and they take pictures with the dad, with the mom being pregnant, holding little baby shoes, and those are nice. And I always felt the kind of ultrasound pictures that they take back in US is very similar to the pregnancy photography places that they have in Iran, and they make tons of money from it. Unfortunately, everything in US that can make a lot of money can be very much popular, and people will really enjoy using that. They don't care if it's really scientific based, is it really helping them, or it's just helping them emotionally, getting some kind of a support, or it's just a lucrative business.
Yeah, it's just a business. If it's the US, it's just about business, I promise.
Yes. I always told the patients that if you want to go and have fun and do an ultrasound 3D, go ahead and do it. But that's going to be completely different than doing a scientific-based ultrasound and medical-based ultrasound that we are doing here. You can have it both ways. I'm not going to tell you don't do that. Go and do it, but that's never going to be a medical, scientific-based sonography for you. It's just like taking any other pictures in a photography shop.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we are coming to the end of our time with you. So grateful to have you. Let's sort of do a roundup, see if there's any other questions for you.
Sure.
It looks like somebody messaged here about being a holistic doula and trying to become an independent midwife. Yeah, it's definitely hard. It depends on where you are in the world.
And also it depends on, most doulas have a background, non-medical background, and not most of them have a medical profession background. Remember in US, a lot of doulas would come from engineering background, science major background, all kinds of social science background. But in Iran, I think this is the only place that I see the doulas are all midwives.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
Great.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to toss this back to Leila now, and Leila's going to get to introduce our next panel conversation. Thank you for being in our circle. Appreciate you so much.
Sure. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here, seeing you guys, wonderful, amazing midwives all around the world, you and Leila and all the dear colleagues. Thank you.